Welcome, everyone. My name is Zlatina Kushkieva, chair of the HR committee, and we have quite an interesting bunch of guests today. And welcome to all of you. It's good to see your faces, and if you happen to be shy, put on your cameras to see more of the faces. We're gonna have very interesting sharing of practices. What were the challenges that we faced in the last 1 year, and what were some of the solutions we found out for those challenges? We have asked and invited Snezhana Koleva, who is an associate director, people and culture from CocaCola European Partners, Bulgaria, to share with us how did they address some of the challenges of the new normal. We also have with us Andrea Tonetti, and Andrea, I hope I pronounced your family name correct. Was it? Who is the head of HR? It's a UniCredit Bull Bank, just joining, you said in November?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Tonetti, but Tonetti is good as well.
Tonetti.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, it's such a beautiful sound, this Italian, Tonetti. And we also invited, so Andrea is going to speak to us about remote working and job flexibility and the future hybrid model. And what are the challenges and the opportunities that we see with the current legal framework? And also going to share with us some and maybe provoke a discussion and thoughts of the welfare and related tax advantages options to boost health and well-being for our employees. Quite an interesting topic also. And with Irina Yoncheva, who is HR manager of Adecco Group Bulgaria, we're going to talk about corporate identity, remote working, and employer branding dynamics. And in the end, we will have actually an open discussion forum with all of us and have separated time in the end of our meeting today to have a discussion and Q&A session with all the participants, including the speakers, but also other participants. So we aim at finishing today's meeting at 6 o'clock. And the floor now is to our speakers, and we're gonna start with Sneji.
Thank you, Zlati. Thank you. Do you hear me? Because I had some problems. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Actually, just to touch upon what you started with around the cameras, it's very interesting because there is a discussion now in the most recent advice that we received on like a company level is that, you know, from psychology perspective, it might not be so healthy, and from well-being perspective to have the cameras all the time switched on, because if you're all the time on one having calls, you just self-reflect on your face all the day, and it might not be very useful, you know, and healthy when you see yourself all the day. It's like staying in front of a mirror the whole day. So it's yeah, another part of the same discussion maybe. So as Wati said, my name is Snezhana. Short version is Sneji, and I'm heading the HR function and team at CCP Bulgaria. So I would like to first thank you so much for being here and for having me. And I hope the session today will be really a good for to start sharing views on the challenges of the new normal. So maybe if we can have the slides that I shared on the screen will be really great. Super. Yeah, the first one. Thank you very much. I'm actually sure that we all pass through very similar challenges, and we are all wondering what is the best approach towards the different aspects of them. And as our CEO said last week, it's so dynamic and it's so fast changing that an answer to something given like 2 months ago most probably is not the best solution today. So it's really important to recognize that as we are all kind of figuring it out along the journey. But I think that it's a great opportunity to have, this meeting with you and to be able to share with you our CCP journey since March last year from people and culture perspective, and the lessons learned, and get your views, as well as said, I'm sure that we are facing very similar challenges, and I'm most probably not really going to say new things to you, but I think it's a way to open the discussion. So maybe if we can move to the next slide very briefly, there are some clicks that you need to go as well to show all of the information on the slide. So if you can click several times would be good. So let me start with a few words about CCP and the Coke system in Bulgaria. So there are many Coke bottlers across the world. Europe countries are mainly covered by CCP, CocaCola European Partners, and Hellenic. In Bulgaria, the bottling company is Hellenic, and they also have the BSO serving their territories from finance and HR perspective. There is also an IT hub of the Coke company, the mother company, as we call it. So CCP landed in Bulgaria at the beginning of 2013, so already 8 years in the country, by establishing a finance shared service center. We have started with about 164 roles. That was the initial plan, only in finance. And now we have almost 1,000 employees covering different areas and supporting different countries. From a community perspective, the system's contribution is rather significant, with over 19,000 jobs, including the indirect, jobs that we have. And I would say that we have a great relationship with the colleagues from Hellenic and the Coke, and have a kind of regular best practices forum with them. So that's in a nutshell for the Coke footprint in Bulgaria, just to refresh knowledge on this one. And if we can move to the next slide, you're going to see more about CCP. Yeah. So as mentioned, CCP operates in Bulgaria since 2013, and we cover 13 countries across Europe. We have more than 24,000 employees. The operation in Bulgaria covers, as I said, finance, shared service center, but also we have COE reporting and analysis, enterprise performance reporting, commercial, automation and robotics, and we have internal audit, internal control, procurement, IT, and people and culture teams working for the global organization. So people and culture, when I say it means HR, that's how we call it. So yeah, approximately 1,000 employees and more than 8 years of successful operation in the country. We have offices in Sofia and in Varna. And I would also like to share some recent news around the acquisition with CocaCola AmCham, which is the Australian New Zealand bottler. So we just go through a very significant integration with them. So along with the challenges, around integration as being now the biggest bottler of Coke with the new name CocaCola Euro-Pacific partners, operating across 26 countries. We have to deal also with this pandemic and all its aspects from business and people perspective, which is really quite challenging. So as a business, we've been thinking for quite some time of shifting into more agile ways of working. And although we are a big, multinational company with lots of regulatory of the business, like market, brand protection, unions, we have been trying to respond to the change of mindset and demands of our people to be more flexible, to be more agile, and change the way we operate. And I would say that, it was more of a preparation mood, let's say, of something that will come, than fast move towards the change. And here is, what happened last year, and maybe now we can move to the next slide. Yeah, thank you very much. Because in March last year, the pandemic came and it changed everything. it was needed to change systems, processes, coordination and cooperation of teams just overnight, moving more than 5,000 people across the system home only by, sending one email, stay home, and adjusting secure and safety working model for our commercial and the supply chain teams to still continue supporting the business on site, change like the working model that we've been thinking for quite some time before that. And we are even joking now that it was kind of easy to send one email, stay home, but now return back, it's really, complicated from all the different aspects of it. So we started working virtually, selling virtually, learning virtually, and we've been started thinking what is now key for the business, for our customers and consumers, how behavior and consumer trends will change, and also how our people feel and what is really important to them at this in this situation. And the reality, honestly, is that whatever preparation trainings we've done in the past as part of our incident management, where we were trained how to respond to an emergency situation and get immediate reaction to protect the business and our people, we were ready with immediate actions, but not with longer solutions as faced with COVID pandemic. So simply because, it was not one-off event, and it brings unpredictable challenges which require not only short-term but rather long-term reflection on of the new expectations of the markets and people. So it's a very fast change which requires us to figure out along the way what to change and what to continue doing. So actually, the year before, in 2019 summer, we had exactly the same training as part of the incident management, and it was focused on managing a virus pandemic situation. And honestly, we didn't believe that it's a real case study example to the extent we are facing it now. So it's really interesting. So just to share with you how did we approach the situation. So as an immediate reaction, we formed local incident management teams where, our locations, where representatives from the countries and functions were present in the global CCP incident management team. The main purpose, of course, of this team was to monitor the situation from all aspects, not only people, but business as well, and decide together with the leadership team on actions and respectively to communicate. So it still operates. We still have the routines around this. The first week, of course, was of great technology challenge to ensure remote connectivity for all people who needed to start working and connecting as of next day remotely. Adjusting all systems and platforms to cover the remote traffic of so many people and connections was really essential during the first days. At the same time, it was needed to ensure we monitor the government instructions to ensure our people are well informed, and we kind of adjust all internal processes, messages, the legal documents that we have as per the new regulations and requirements. A very simple one, which though generated huge work volume, was to ensure we have all legal documents required to just send people to work from home, because it kind of seems simple, but in our labor contracts, the place of work is given, our offices. So such change may trigger, for instance, like health and safety issues, and other questions coming from employees around who discover what when they are working at home, such as electricity, internet connection, equipment, desks, chairs, and so on. So we've been working very closely with legal and labor medicine to ensure like a proper documentation is in place, but also instructions, and guidelines given to our people from that perspective.
Sneji, if I may ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Does it mean you actually updated the business address of the employees with annexes, or how did it?
Exactly. Work? So we signed like a supplementary agreements with all people, which was another challenge because they were already back home. on the new specifics and the new model. It was more to ensure that it seems like they agree with this new approach, so they agreed to work from home, because the labor contract, it says that they work in the office, and all things around this that I've just mentioned from health and safety perspective to be regulated in this agreement.
Thank you.
So another one was to ensure critical roles in the organization have the needed documents to enter the cities of the offices when, if you remember, the government closed districts. So very small thing again, but again, in terms of the reaction and the workload and finding people to get the needed document, it was like a huge volume for the PNC team to ensure that they have the needed documentation to react and if needed to still come to the office. We actually haven't closed the office like officially, so it was open if needed for people to come. So people needed information and constant updates of all of these things happening around, and also what they can do, what is allowed and what is not recommended. For instance, can they come to the office, because we communicated that it's still it's open. For instance, if their password expire, if they need to take some personal stuff from the office and so on. So lots of tickets sent to the people services team from that perspective as well. And for that purpose, actually, we created a dedicated place on our intranet called Corona Hub, where all the information was placed and updated, almost on daily basis from people and culture, legal and health and safety perspective. And it's still there. It's still, a work, and our people are using it. So with the time, that was at the very beginning. With the time, I would say people started feeling insecure about the situation, what will happen with the business. As you can imagine, that having lockdown in many of our countries killed the out-of-home business. So it was crucial to pass the right message to ensure people that, we are a stable business and their job is secured. So huge focus and messages from the executive leadership team, but also the local LT about that. We have launched, and we still run bi-weekly town halls at local and central level with the LT members, so people can get updated and ask the leaders questions which bother them. So that was another, focus area in terms of communication. So delivering and keeping the performance was the other, focus area. Surprisingly to us, because we've been discussing this, time ago around, how it's going to work if we give the flexibility to people and to work remotely. So surprisingly to us, it was very good. It was really at the expected level. So we didn't face much of disruption from that perspective, but still it's an area we needed to look at and ensure business is running as usual. So giving people the accountability and building that trust between people and managers was really key to the success of the remote working. So important here was to ensure people are close to each other and close to the business to see the purpose of their daily efforts. Because as you know, when working remotely for so long time, the key challenge is not to forget, the purpose of what you do, the contribution to the business and the outcome of your role. So it's kind of really key for the engagement as well.
And if you may allow me, what are the challenges you foresee, what you see now or you foresee in the near?
From delivery perspective, you mean, or?
Oh, the challenges, not from a delivery perspective, but for in our early discussions when we were preparing for this call, you mentioned that some of the employees already left Sofia City and they moved back to wherever they are.
Yes. Yeah, that's another piece that people, after some weeks, they moved back to their home cities. So they're working from everywhere. And it was another challenge, and it's still a challenge for us to give them a clear answer when we expect them back in the office, because you can imagine that they release their apartments in the city. Kids are moved to different schools and kindergartens now across the country, so they need to know that, to have this information. So that's one thing. This fact itself may trigger other questions around, for instance, remuneration and benefits, because, for instance, we have like a commuting allowance that we offer on monthly basis to all people. And the question is, as people are not actually commuting to the office, do we still, provide this? And we decided from engagement perspective to continue doing it, but it's a question mark as well. So these are some of the areas, and we and it's not only in the country, because we realize that people are also working from other countries, and that's another challenge from legal, tax, social security, perspective. And it's also, how do we monitor this? Because if they don't inform us, there is no tool for us to know. I mean, there is true, the IP addresses and so on, but it's a GDPR, issue from another perspective. So that's another challenge. And also we build our remuneration system based on the local market conditions. So that's another thing. If people are working from everywhere, what we do from that perspective.
And some of those questions are still open, right? And nobody can give the answer.
Many of them are still open, actually. Yeah. Not sure whether you are facing the same challenges and the same issues, and what's the solution around this.
So shall we ask everyone on the call if they have any solutions around this, Sneji?
Of course, yeah.
Guys, how have you addressed those employees working from everywhere, not only within Bulgaria, but also outside of Bulgaria? And does this worry you from a tax perspective? Because if it doesn't worry you from a performance perspective, so is there something to worry about at all? It's a question to all of you. If somebody has already found out the solution, please share it.
On central level, the tax team actually advised that, it depends, of course, of the country, but in Europe, at least they can work 25% of the time without, really facing any significant issue. The question is, how do we really monitor this? Yeah, and what might be kind of implications from that perspective. And another big challenge, I would say, is around health and safety at home. We had a meeting with our labor medicine a month ago, and actually, as per the current legal framework, they still need to go in every single home and do the measures, which is, it's not affordable for them, even if we provide, the data. When people are changing their place, like not every week, but very often. Like even now for the Easter presents, we cannot find them to send them the presents, but that's another. So that's a real challenge as well. Who is really responsible, from that perspective?
So any of us on this call who already found a solution for labor medicine for employees working from all over the world? Zaro, I think you wanted to say something, but you were on mute.
Yeah, actually, working from everywhere is really a tax issue. It's not monitoring and so on, at least in our case. And we just moved those guys in civil contracts because they are living already more than a year outside, or almost more than a year outside Bulgaria. So it's a clear tax issue.
Yeah.
And with the labor medicine, that's unsolvable. It's really, I think it's stupid to send the labor medicine to everyone's home, then to everyone's villa outside, then to some stupid hotel they are being right now for 2 weeks or whatever. So
The point here is that even if they go and if they do the measures and if they provide recommendations or whites, heating or whatever else, it's not under our control, because even if we provide like funding to employees to buy whatever is needed as per the recommendation, we cannot really track it. Okay, we can track whether they buy, but whether they use it, whether they don't give it to a friend or whatever. I mean, it's, yeah.
just for fun, a stupid question. You have to provide equal treatment and let's say internet to everyone. And they are living in different areas, and internet is not equal in the different areas. So you are wrong. You are not able to do that.
Yes, so far, in exactly in the agreement with them, it's written that it's their responsibility to ensure that they have, proper tools apart from laptop and, whatever is provided by the company. But you are right, and that's why exactly we decided not to call the office. So still, if they are not able, to ensure that they have this to do the, the job, they can still come to the office. And in the office, we have a tool called, Me at CCP, where everyone should go and request to be in the office for a specific time period, because the office, because of the measures, it's open up to 30% of the capacity. And then using this tool, we ensure that first we monitor, how many people we have, so that to keep the distance in the office. And that's the option they can use.
Even it's questionable if it's illegal to put in an agreement that they are obliged to provide the internet. But we have no other choice. I mean, just in general, is questionable.
Yes.
This is Nina from Kingseller speaking. Just a comment on this matter.
Nina, we don't hear you very well. At least I don't hear you. If you can just move a little bit closer.
Yes, do you hear me well now?
It's the same, but let's try.
Okay, is it better now? Well, okay, let's try. Just there is recently we've seen several inspections by the labor inspectorate, and they consider that the employer should provide the internet, or at least cover the cost for the internet. So the authorities already have some views on that. I don't know whether you heard me.
Yes, I'm just thinking it's from one side, it's a matter of the regulations internally in terms of our documents, because as I said, for instance, we give something that we are not, obliged to give, and we can say that, this amount is now switched to covering, the kind of electricity and internet at home. It's just whether we have the proper communication and documentation around this. But it's going to be kind of borderline, because I'm hearing a discussion whether, because it's not that one thing is for us to ask people to work from home because we don't have office and they don't have, an opportunity to work in the office. So that's one thing, and who is covering, these things, as there is no other option for the employees. And it's a different story when there is an option for them to come.
May I add something?
Yeah.
It's Nevena. Hi, Sneji. Thank you for the good presentation. I just want to add that you're absolutely right. What was just said. I mean, it is not an obligation of the employer to cover the cost for internet. If there is a possibility, under certain conditions, of course, to work from the office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And going back to the taxation issue, I mean, from my practice, we see a lot of challenges of companies for the employees working from home it is just a matter of good analysis of the situation as what is the tax position, if there is any change in the tax position of the people when they work, for example, now from another country than they used to work, and this country becomes their tax residency country. So there might be big changes in the payroll, in the tax withholding, or maybe there are also planning opportunities and tax advantages that may be beneficial for the company, even depending on what kind of agreement they have. I have seen just an example, what I believe Svetozar said, that all the people were moved to civil contracts. Truly said, I find this approach rather aggressive, because if the content and the substance of the work has not changed and you change the contract, when in essence they are working under the instructions and for the benefit of the employer and not giving a specific result, then it is only a formal change in the contractual agreement, while nothing has changed in terms of substance of work. So this can be challenged by the authorities.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. Just in our case, we did reorganize the whole work just because this is in the events department, and we just reorganized, sorry, and we changed what the people are doing, and in that case, actually, it was the right move. We actually studied different approaches in the situation, and we just switched the work, even the positions in the department and everything.
Yeah, I believe formally, for sure, you have managed it well. What I'm just, I'm going to the first question, what is our big challenge? I mean, tax withholding and all these things are just a matter of analysis and good planning and good setup. But the big challenge from an HR perspective, from me, is really to stay and to be good employers and to keep our talent, which we will for sure need after this crisis. And how we do that, this for me, and I speak also from my experience with the people in our office, we will need these people, our best people, after all this happened, and we see that that the economy will go in a better way after, let's say, not even years but months, and we cannot afford, especially with if we speak about the week before 13th of March last year, we had the challenge of trying to find people for us and for EY, also for our clients, to bring them from so many exotic destinations, like finding auditors from India, finding IT specialists from the Philippines, from so many things.
1000 човека направо ще се гръмна.
Sorry?
Just go ahead, Nevena. Someone has unmuted themselves.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is that we had so different challenges just the week before all of this turned in a completely different direction. And now we need to manage with really being good to our people, keeping them motivated, making them having a good balance between their private life and still meeting their KPIs. And this crisis showed me personally that it was just nothing new happened. And what Sneža said, we were thinking about being more flexible, giving the opportunity for our people to working from different places. We did the same. This was just an escalation, catalyzed the process of being what we had to be. And now we understand and we realize that we cannot go back anymore to 9 to 5 working day. We cannot go back to 100% being in the office people. For me, it is very difficult hiring people, this generation, with all my respect of people 25 years old. I cannot make them being dressed in a certain way. I cannot make them work from 9 to 6. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we need to be very, very flexible and very proactive in seeing they don't have the loyalty and the mentality with which we grew up. And for example, being working for one company for 10 or for 20 years. They change from one company to another just because they don't find it very challenging and interesting.
Yeah, that's another, it's a it's another discussion, and you're very right. But that's linked to the fact that young people, because of different circumstances, the way they live now with all the technology and so on, they don't really have the patience to wait. So that's another driver of why they jump so quickly, why they don't have they don't want to wait for to grow and to get maturity and experience so that to be promoted. So that's indeed, you're right, that's still there. So I was thinking about what actually was the success so far, not only as a company but in my personal life, for instance. And I think that actually the key is that we kind of continued doing what was possible to continue and not to change and to stop doing, so that to minimize the impact of the change. So we have continued opening all the vacancies, promote people, do the talent management reviews, career discussions. We have continued providing trainings opportunities, even if online. We have continued focusing on our sustainability agenda and keep people close to it by different events, organizing charity initiatives and so on. So I think it was important to keep the things that out of the the EVP, the main drivers of engagement, just to see what is it that we can keep doing as it was in the past and what needs to change and reflect the needed changes in the most secure for people way. So that was the approach so far.
And as we it's really cool that we always have counselors. Right? Nina, Nevena, you're counselors, right? Is it the English? This is the right English word?
What do you mean in the company?
That we have actually qualified lawyers with us who can.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know. I was just trying to move the discussion into a more exciting direction than taxes.
Well, taxes are exciting also. Who said taxes?
Of course. I'm
the
talking
tax
about
pieces around
so.
the piece is that when we have now the online job fairs, people from everywhere are connecting, and Bulgarians studying abroad, in Amsterdam and other cities, and they're asking, okay, I'm successful now, you want to hire me, but I don't want to relocate. Well, so why, I cannot work from there? So that's a longer term, yeah. Good.
And guys, because we kind of side-slipped, and it was a good discussion, and I didn't want to really end it. I just want to ask Sneji if there's one thing you want to say and close that part, and we're gonna have questions. We're gonna have a discussion forum in the end of today's meeting, so you guys are going to have more opportunity to talk and share. But if there's one thing you want to mention, just as a closing thoughts, and then we give the words to Andrea.
Honestly, I think that I'm just mentioning, as you know, around the success story so far. I really think that that was the key piece around, you know, keeping people engaged. Something very interesting. We run a well-being survey, and we've seen that, you know, the stress level is quite high, but the engagement level is going up comparing with the previous engagement survey. So it's another thing, you know, speaking that actually we are doing the right things as a company. It's just the situation around, you know, the pandemic from personal perspective as well. So we need to find the right balance and to see what are the drivers and support people.
Yes, thank you very much. And I do see in our clients also that actually for a lot of companies, the engagement index went up. And this is probably connected with the fact that people actually appreciate that they have work, and they appreciate being informed, and they appreciate that the company is doing whatever it can to continue to provide the benefits, to continue to provide and to run processes as normal. And while for you in CocaCola European partners, it was easy to move people overnight and tell them stay home. Let's see how actually the reality is in an industry where this is not possible with just, you know, like that. So Andrea, give the word to you, please, to share from your
Hello.
perspective the job flexibility and this future, current, future, never to go away model.
Okay, so I hope you can see my screen. Give me a second of that time. Simplify everything, and I hope you can see also the presentation in the right way. Very good. So first of all, thank you very much for being here with you. It's my great pleasure, and it's the first time that I have the opportunity to contribute. So this presentation is a set of slides where we would like to share with you our human capital strategy. We would like to reflect with you about the new way of working and the flexibility, I would say, that is needed by this new way of working, and also some practices. There's the last slide that I believe it is the most interesting, because our local tax frame and labor frame here in Bulgaria is pretty well known. Maybe this is an opportunity to reflect how together we can contribute to improve it for the future. That was one of the aim of my first touch point with AmCham. So first of all, talking about the banking sector, you were right. It's a sector with several legacy. You know, it's a sector where the regulators affect a lot our daily life. But in terms of flexibility and in terms of how we tackle the COVID period, I would say it's pretty similar to Coca-Cola. We were able all around the group to react quickly to the crisis. Also because UniCredit is a group that already taken a crisis like COVID, because we had offices in the Far East where, you know, there was the SAR that is not far from COVID several years ago. So we already had the protocol to tackle the topic. But you know, branches and let's say the physical presence in the branches is something that is different from the office, and that's why, you know, we cannot apply a full flexibility like other industries, or like we are applying in our head office. So coming back, you know, to the presentation, and we will understand better the concept of flexibility later on. So our local strategy, I would say, it is the compromise of several forces. You know, we have the business strategy. Our aim is to become a simple banking. You know, it seems something simple, but it is not. Especially because the banking sector, as I mentioned before, is really regulated. So to become number one in customer experience in terms of choice of employees in digitalization, and also taking care about the external environment. So to take the responsibility that doing banking today affect the life of companies and people, it's something relevant. We have, this on the vertical side of this slide. Whilst on the horizontal side, we have 3 pillars which refer to our group: human capital strategy, best place to work, great people developer, quality rewarded. And these 2 forces allow us to decide what are our short and medium term priority. As you can see, you will not recognize 2 keywords that are part of the presentation itself. One is flexibility and the other welfare, because are embedded. First of all, employee experience. We have to find in a new way of working the right compromise between digital and physical approach. People want to come back to normality. We are, leading in our role the community, and community cannot simply manage via digital. You were talking about the new generation. I have 3 kids. It seems that they manage even friendship through mobile. I believe this is not the right things to do. You can train via mobile or via digital tool, but you cannot educate. In this respect, you cannot boost the culture of a company. That's why employee experience is important. The hybrid model, as we love to define it in our group, or the new way of working, is the right compromise. Is the right, balance between physical and digital. I love to say the future is phygital. At a certain point, the digital tools will be a mere commodity. And our people will make the difference in front of our customer, and our HR colleagues will make the difference in front of our internal customer. In these new words, for sure, upskilling and reskilling is a point. If we look to our Bulgarian market, this is not a big market. We have to be honest. 7 million people are not so many. Unemployment rate is really low. Euro is coming, new capital will come, the competitiveness will rise. We lost 2 million people in the last 15 years. So to understand how to leverage on the flexibility to capitalize all the colleagues that we have, how to manage properly the aging of our organization and the aging, because this country is becoming older. This is the real opportunity, but also threat. The fact that the banking sector is a peculiar one, we have roughly 75 colleagues that are ladies, okay? 10% of our colleagues are in maternity leave. How the current labor frame and cultural frame help the employers to capitalize the skill of our colleagues? How help new mom and new dad? And on new dad, I would say I have some remark, because it seems that we are a little bit stereotypes, but it seems that moms should take care about kids here in Bulgaria, but it's not different from Italy, honestly speaking. So how to support the environment? This is the big question. And, regarding the first topic, which refer mainly to the segmented strategy for sourcing and rewarding, so we are lucky, because banking sector is still a sector that is pretty well paid, but is a sector that is really inflationated. So is a sector where maybe we should start to look to other industries. There are a lot of industries where we can find the right attitudes and skills, and we can train them how to do bank. And this is exactly what's behind the meaning of segmented sourcing. And for sure, change management, because we are called every day to support a cultural shift. Why? Because the world is dynamic. It changes every day. As you were mentioning before in the presentation of CocaCola, as your CEO stated, the world is really dynamic. So change management is a continued duty of the HR people and the management of the bank, to craft the challenge of the external environment. everything should refer to the employee experience. We talk a lot about customer experience, but I do believe that you cannot craft the challenge of the new worlds. You cannot be digital without a digital experience inside. You cannot represent yourself as a gentleman if you don't work on yourself and your attitude. And here, what we would like to express is that when we think about flexibility, when we think about new way of working, this should take each step of the employee experience. In our, let's say, environment, when we talk about employee experience, we talk about something that is end-to-end, from attraction and sourcing of the newcomers, the assessment of the onboarding, the development, and the promoting, how to engage and to retain our colleagues. It is really important also the offboarding, because, considering the aging of the company, we should find a way to support the wiser colleague in be prepared to the next step of their life, that is get retired. So employee experience makes sense if we are able to, again, have a balance between the moment that matters in the professional life of our colleagues with the moment that matters in the personal life of our colleagues. That's why, coming back to the flexibility, what we can do for our moms, for our colleagues that has a baby, how we can support them during the period that they are far from, let's say, the working environment, how the labor frame allow us maybe to give them possibility to nurture the community, to get in contact, and why not to contribute, maintaining the same flexibility that today we are obliged to have because of the COVID. But maybe in the future, this could be a competitive advantage because, we will be pushed by the business and by the manager to have everybody under control physically. But we have to learn, because at least the COVID crisis gave us the opportunity to discover that you don't need to control people physically to have them productive. You have to select the right profile and to empower them, and sometimes also to control them, but it's not the physical control that makes the difference. So here, if we talk about work-life balance, because this is a part of the flexibility, I'm gonna share really quickly a couple of interesting experience that we have. Nothing different from Coke, I would say. We are pretty similar in the pot of perks that we are providing to our colleagues. Just to mention few initiatives before, elaborating more about the flexibility concept, bird holiday. So we would like really to price on top to the standard vacation time, the possibility for our colleagues to be with their beloved ones in the moment that matter of their life. To have the opportunity to have an additional pot of money before the Christmas time, to price again the kids, again the relatives with a Christmas gift voucher. This is even more important. Our group committed to be a more inclusive role. There are countries in North Europe that are pretty advanced in this respect, especially about the role of the dad in a moment that matter for the family. Let's say Mediterranean countries, and I believe also Bulgaria should improve. Okay, Italy first. Still, I remember also my personal experience. I have 3 kids. I was a little bit biased by asking, parental leave. This is typical male attitude. Now, let's say with a different age, because I'm 50 years old, I regret a bit not to be there in that time. So having 15 additional days specifically dedicated to dads, we believe is important to start to give the signal that we can blow up these stereotypes and we can support more our female colleagues in a moment that matter, but also our male colleagues, because it's important for them to be there in that moment that matter of their family. Remote working. Remote working is the new way of working. We will not come back. So in the banking sector, in our group, we will not completely come back. So let's say that we started the remote working in the Western country several years before the COVID crisis. I personally started to work remotely in 2010, so 10 years ago. In reality, this was mainly related to real estate saving initiatives, okay? So to create a big hub. And the occupancy rate was 80%. So the idea was to have one working day at home. Now, you know, what is making the difference is that this was my choice. So it's the lack of freedom that makes the difference. When we will be back to normality, we will have most probably an occupancy rate of 60% in our big 60% in our big buildings. So we will give the opportunity at least for 2 days at home to our colleagues that would like to have. Most probably we have to tailor the approach again, because we have to consider the moment that matters in the life of our colleagues. You know, a newcomer is different from somebody that may be just leading a managerial role, from somebody that maybe just become a dad or a mom, from somebody that maybe is really close to be retired. So apart from the frame that will be an hybrid model, especially in the head office, we have also to take care about the flexibility itself and the tailored approach. You know, during this period, as already mentioned in the previous presentation, people was physically and psychologically affected. So it is important to have initiative from the HR that give the opportunity to our colleagues to stay motivated, to understand, you know, what is happening, to stay connected vis-a-vis specific topics. That's why even before the crisis, it was created live motivi that, let's say, as this strategic focus of the work-life balance and investing time in understanding how to balance our professional and personal life. Another example is, you know, the free consultation with psychologists that we provide to our colleagues. So we are a lucky industry, so we've still quite a good margin. So on top to this, we have also, you know, a kindergarten, just to mention, in our main building that despite cannot, let's say, serve all the moms of our organization, it is a quite relevant benefit for our colleagues. So I believe this is the most important slide because, you know, despite we are doing quite a lot, despite we receive really positive feedback and engagement, you are right, raised because the people recognize that we care about them. And, you know, honestly speaking, is also a matter of the Maslow pyramid. You know, when the security, the basic is affected, the people care about the basic, okay? When everything is perfect, people care about more extrinsic motivators. So today, people care about the security of the job. You know, they even not, let's say, ask salary increase like in the past, but as soon as the situation will be over, you know, and as soon as the basic layer of the Maslow pyramid will be part of the normality, we will come back to searching for something different. We truly believe that flexibility is the answer, and the flexibility is in the way we work. The flexibility is in the way we provide the service to our colleagues. We should apply to our internal colleagues marketing concept. They are not the same. You know, personas describe, you know, group of people with similarities and similar needs. That's the future, not just in the way we work, but also in the way we provide perks to our colleagues. The future is for sure a flexible workforce system, because maybe you are interested to a food voucher because you are alone at home and this is good. Maybe you are interested to have a voucher for a nanny or contribute to the kindergarten because you have small kids. Maybe you are interested to have an additional pension scheme because you are 50 years old. Maybe you are interested to have a sport voucher because you care a lot about what you do after 6 o'clock in the evening. So that's exactly what we have in mind when we talk about flexibility. Honestly speaking, the tax environment, apart, the food voucher doesn't help too much. This is also because the social contribution and the taxation is really low. I come from Italy, if you get 100 gross, 50 comes in your net pocket. Here is completely different. You have advantage and disadvantage in that respect. But if we would like to create a working environment that is similar to the Western countries, and we have to have the ambition to create for the citizens and the employees of Bulgaria, we should start to think about it, because there's still a big gap, I would say. I didn't mention, by case pension scheme. It is related also to the current taxation, but it's something that is important. The fact that there's, despite a low unemployment rate, a high inactive rates with a lot of females that are not coming back to the working environment, this is another point, how to attract them. And just to mention, the banking sector is a pink sector. In CE, meaning not just Bulgaria, but the east of Europe, is 70% roughly. The presence of female. In our bank in Bulgaria is 75, and we have approximately 400 colleagues that are in maternity leave. And that's, our future priority, to find a way from labor perspective, from taxation perspective, to create an environment that welcome them. Because, the future will be even more complicated. Because of the euro, because of the capital that will come, because, I come from a country that maybe was similar to Bulgaria 10, 15 years ago, that is Hungary. When BlackRock came and decided to open a shared service center of 3,000 people and pay 70% more, because they simply move from a really expensive country, they destroyed the labor market. So we have to prepare ourselves in that respect and to create competitive advantage. So that's all regarding my presentation. Sorry if I went a little bit longer, but I hope that I keep exactly the time you gave me, and I'm really open to listen your comments and questions, if any.
Andrea, it's quite interesting that first, I was really surprised you have 75% women. I had this suspicion that in banks there are more women than men, but 75%. It's interesting, and that you actually have more people on maternity than the number of the voluntary turnover, if I read the numbers correct, yes?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Currently, the voluntary turnover is even lower, because in 2021, maybe because the carryover effect of the crisis is this year and not the first half of last year, I'm expecting not to be over 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Bull Bank is quite powerful brand here in Bulgaria, especially in the banking sector. So maybe this is an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a good place to work, I would say, not because of my role, also because I just joined the team. But you are right, 75%. And probably I can say also that if you move on the pyramid of the organization, the gender balance is pretty good. At the board level, we are half female and half male. And the gender pay gap is close to zero. That is another important topic. So in that respect, we are quite inclusive environment, I can probably say.
Yes. And also, yes, the fact that you have 50% on the board women is also very impressive. And what is it you think that employers can do if they unite forces together to allow this flexibility in the labor framework, to allow this flexibility of the employee to choose which is the right benefit for him or for her? And I also reflect on this very small chart that I saw on this slide. This is also related to the fact that people are different, but generations also have different, yes, as we spoke in the beginning, generations have also different needs. Not only the personal needs are different. So what is it that you believe that the employers can do together to unite forces in that respect?
Look, I believe there are two floors. One refers when you introduce this kind of tools, you need a digital environment to support them. And here, in this respect, everything which refer to HR matter is quite paper-based, okay? And this is related to the regulation themselves, okay? So for sure, stimuli to the employers from the government to speed up the digital experience in our companies is utmost important, because if you decide to go on a welfare system, you cannot manage 1 million invoices, with paper. And this is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, it's maybe to have additional taxation advantages, okay? Because at a certain point, the employee could claim, why don't you give me money? Okay, so and you should have a kind of advantage, or for the employer, or for the employee, or for both. I know that here it is a point, but I also know that the fiscal pressure might rise in the future. So in this opportunity, in this environment where the fiscal pressure is really low, but might increase in the future, having the opportunity to lobby to maintain a better taxation when we move from the normal salary to services that allow to boost who is inactive and become active, I believe is a value for the government as well, because it is a way, to drop the unemployment and to satisfy potential future investment. Digital on one side, taxation on the other is the answer, to be really, really.
Thank you for that. Irina, do we have you with us still? You're with us, right? Show us.
Yes, I am. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And if you could also stay, guys, I expect that we will probably finish at least 10 minutes later. So I'm not sure which one of you can stay, but whoever could stay, please do plan 10 minutes more if you could. Irina is joining us from to share her perspective on yes. As the HR manager of Adecco Group on job flexibility and employer brand. Irina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
And for you.
Thank you very much for giving me the word, and also for the patience of everybody sitting here. Just to let you know, it's not going to be a quick a long presentation. So those of you who are already planning what they will be cooking for dinner, rest assured that there will be plenty of time. At the same time, because I think that logically my presentation happened to be a continuation of the topics already mentioned, and I trust more or less my vision is very much related to what the speakers before me said. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time and share your perspective, because the presentation is going to be less about the success story and more about opening questions and raising concerns and being aware. And honestly, if we are a great group here collected this evening, why not share experience and see how different companies are doing things. While I'm preparing to share the presentation, just to let you know that our success story more or less covers CocaCola, perhaps on a much smaller scale, because we are just 60 people in Bulgaria, if I count only the colleagues who work directly for Adecco. Sorry, just to see how to share the presentation. Right.
Irina, would you like me to share for you?
Yeah, it would be better instead of just
Okay, no
wasting
problem.
time
Just
on
a sec.
this.
Okay.
So if you kindly step on the first slide while I'm presenting myself and the company. Everybody knows Adecco, I'm sure about this. We are a Fortune 500 company, which is presented in more than 34,000 countries worldwide. More than 60 countries, and we have more than 34,000 employees worldwide. We have different brands, but mostly we are focused on presenting HR services and HR solutions for the companies. We were ranked 7th in the 2020 survey of the Great Place to Work, which gives us the confidence that definitely it's a great company and an employer of choice. Now, what is happening during the crisis?
Tanchi, just to mention that we actually see your Windows Explorer and all the files you have prepared and the different folders you have on the left on your cloud, but we don't see the presentation.
The presentation.
I'm sorry, I don't know
Before
why.
anyone makes a screenshot of your confidential folder structure.
Just a second, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So while I was getting ready to make this
Do you see now?
presentation.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. I was thinking that our journey through these hard times of pandemic were a little bit like a pendulum swing, going from office and back to home, to the office, to home. And it was, I really started to hate the word flexibility because it means nothing. It's just a fuzzy word behind which sometimes it's our optimism that it's already safe and we can go back to normal, whatever the normal is. Then we say, well, safety first, let's go back home. And this pavement to movement had his strengths and definitely success stories, but also dark sides. And actually on the slide, it looks like these are the successes, but let's think about the dark side of it. So on one hand, we had different working teams and locations, which might look like better working conditions for employees who for years back to work from home. And, definitely not only in Adecco. I joined Adecco a couple of years ago. I have been in the ICT sector for almost 20 years now, and everybody wanted to work home office. Now we see the dark side of it, which is, it looks like the workload has been increasing. It looks like the productivity is high, but I don't think it's necessarily because of the greater working skills and suddenly the professional skills that appeared from nowhere to support the employees. It's more like being more focused, being really scary to lose your job, working even harder to make sure that you keep your results and your job and so on. It appeared that leaders are not necessarily that well equipped with the right skill sets to manage remotely teams. This is MBO's management by objectives, of course, but at Adecco, thanks God, it was really very easy, simply because we have a very strong, long-lasting tradition of being measured against KPIs, all positions, in all branches. So it was really easy, and it had exactly the opposite shocking effect to the management, that people can work from home and we can still have productivity and we can still have great results, even better because people were all much focused on the results compared to before the COVID. Managers a little bit looked kind of disappointed at some point of time, but at the same time, it's just not enough to have management by objectives. It takes extra energy to stay in contact with your team, to make sure that there's still one consistent team of people who speak to each other, to communicate, who can share experience, share even gossip, let's say, because this is part of culture. And people do not feel like isolated islands. No man is an island. So this was taking extra efforts for the management. For the health and safety, suddenly it appeared the top priority team of all times. And we had to invent new practices and new policies and procedures literally overnight to make sure that we are keeping our people safe and sound. But at the same time, other aspects appeared. For example, mental health appeared to be very, very hot topic. We organized a seminar with the psychologist. It was online based. To my greatest surprise, people were switching on cameras and they wanted to talk. And there were people who got contaminated at the beginning last year of COVID, and they wanted to share their experience and say how frustrated they felt, how scared for their lives and the lives of their loved ones. And this created a great sense of belonging, but at the same time, make it very exposed how fragile our employees were during this pandemic, and made us wonder whether we managed to keep them mentally healthy compared to physically. We knew about the physical part, but the mental part, probably it was even more important than we thought at the beginning. And the work-life balance, it's the next topic, which is also quite fuzzy and gray. And I don't think that the work balance still stays on the hot presentations of various consulting companies in the business and HR. It's now called work-life flexibility.
And work-life integration, if you allow me.
Yeah, because it appeared there is no balance. It's absolutely no balance, quite on the opposite. We started closing the office and people started almost banging on the door to let them in again. There are perhaps 40 people of us working in the office without anyone pushing us. It was quite on the opposite. I had to, we have a shared file with schedules, who is working from home and who from the office, so that we make sure that groups do not interact with each other in case of contamination. But this is very difficult to follow because people do want to come. And then you start thinking how risky actually your environment at home could be. This was something I personally have never thought about. Even at group level, the HRs from the zone at Adecco, probably you know that big companies get organized in zones, so countries go into zones. So we had one meeting and the topic about domestic violence was mentioned there, and I remember thinking very sarcastically, it can't be something important. And exactly the same week, I was told that a friend of mine almost got shot by her husband, who tried to shoot at her 4 times. He missed all 4 times, thanks God. But obviously he was overly frustrated, couldn't hold his aggression. There was no way for him to get out and steam out, and that's why the violence escalated at home. This is why we introduced practices how to help people report domestic violence and try to steam out. So we absolutely agree that access to the office must be open for sure, because we don't know what is happening in different families. And this all makes me think that experience of freedom is actually a little bit inflated and not really there. the workload is definitely increased, but the experience of freedom is not. It might be not because we are working remotely. It could be because of the lockdowns and periodic restrictions, which keep us away from what we want to do, away from hobbies, away from sports, away from other ways to experience and demonstrate our personality, which is not related to work and what we achieve there. And finally, digitalization, which is also has its dark side, which is the more digital you are, the more digital you are. But at the end of the day, life cannot be just experienced sitting and staring at a PC 8 hours a day because of your work, because going to 9 and 10. And on top of this, having your hobbies there and your TV and getting logged in because of kids to see how they're doing at school and help them, and speaking with your parents because you cannot see them physically, and various of other activities. And definitely, instead of expanding your boundaries, your PC is closing them down. Could we go to the next slide, please? So we were very seriously thinking it. We continued thinking, and definitely please feel invited to interrupt me and share your thoughts and beliefs on this topic. But we started thinking that it's really very, very difficult to promote your employee value proposition, even get emotionally connected to employees. Similarly to CocaCola, we also have an increase in engagement surveys and decrease in turnover, which doesn't necessarily make me happy, because I think it's just a side effect of the lockdown, not necessarily because people feel happier working for this employer. And it started looking like along this emotional relationship when you have a loved one somewhere away from you, and whatever you do on the camera is just not enough. It just cannot substitute the physical presence. What I say about sensor deprivation is that when there are so many ways and so many channels in the physical office where you represent your company, and your company is felt physically. And it's not only that you have some posters behind you to all the time explain to employees that they belong to this company, or the color of the chairs, or what drawings you have on the walls, but it's also how the vibrations of the office, what it smells like, what it feels like to walk on this carpet, how the doors of the elevators make noises, how one of the teams is having fun and laughing and making positive noise somewhere. And all of this is just absolutely lacking. And you don't have any sensors staying at home behind the PC to actually feel this and recognize the belongingness at very physical and very sensory level. And then we started thinking how we connect emotionally with our employees now. Our leaders are much, much more busy with this. And on top of being busy achieving business targets in a very demanding environment, they are even busier looking after the employees and taking care of the teams and staying connected and helping them be connected. And you see things that the office can offer and home cannot. And if we think about Maslow's pyramid, for example, the middle level where socialization happens and where you meet people and your achievements are on a display, and everybody can hear you because we work in open office and hear your achievements and see how you tackled a difficult situation or helped the client and invented a great solution or anything like this. This kind of happens within the four walls of your apartment and doesn't necessarily become explicit and visible to everybody. So these are, I think, the things that definitely are missing when you're not in the office, physically present. And then we were thinking that we make a promise to our employees. We give it a promise, and then we have to keep it. And the promise is what the relationship, what the bonding with the employer is going to be throughout the life cycle of the employee. And then the employee probably doesn't experience what we promise and probably experience some very limited version, the light version of the employee value proposition. And this makes the company identity very dynamic then, because it is not how we used to present ourselves before the crisis when everything was physical. And it is very difficult now, and we have new starters, and I think that we have to push extra in order to keep them connected. We have seen it before with colleagues, and we definitely have probably almost 1,000 associates. These are colleagues, employees who work for a project dedicated to clients. Definitely the bonding there is much weaker to Adecco compared to colleagues to Adecco. It is because they rarely see us, we communicate remotely, they work focused on a different type of business and targets, and we kind of experience the same effects very similar to our new starters, which make us think what we can do, how we can go the extra mile on each major key step of the employee life cycle. And this is the slide, this is the last slide, which represents exactly this. These are our milestones, and thinking what more we can do, and do it remotely so that we have this positive feeling that we are still the same family, although spread across the country. Thank you very much for your time.
And Irina,
welcome.
just catching on that note, we will be having in exactly 1 month another meeting on which we will be actually discussing how to digitalize the processes in HR, and how to onboard people online, and how to sign contracts remotely, and what is it that we can do to really somehow enable all of us as employers in this situation. And while I was hearing what you just mentioned, I never actually thought that people might actually really miss that feeling of walking on the carpet, smelling the office, and these are the words of a psychologist, right?
Probably, yes, yeah, my background is.
We are going to see next month again Andrea discussing experience and question marks and challenges on the legal framework. We are going to have a full bunch again of interesting speakers, some of them already digitalizing signing of contracts. So to share with us how do they do that, others digitalizing other processes. And we're going to speak also about gamification of HR processes. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. Please enroll. We're going to announce it just right after the holidays as an event, but you can go ahead and book it in your calendars and reserve it even now. And let's not lie to you and confirm that it's going to be on 27th. Yeah.
6:30.
Yes.
4:30, sorry.
4:30, yes.
The same time as today.
In exactly
May
1 month.
27th. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. My takeaway is, what is it that we can do as a chamber to actually unite the forces? It's not only UniCredit that are kind of struggling in the labor framework. What is it that we can do in order to offer the right benefit to all the variety of employees that we have with their personal preferences? And what is it that I mean, it's not gonna be a quick turnaround, but to start a discussion with the relative authorities about that, as we've been successful in the last years also in provoking other changes in the legal framework. So this is my key takeaway. Thank you, Ivan, for the claps, and have a great evening. Andrea. Yeah, so thank you for everyone who stayed. I'll see you in 1 month. If you have questions, please share them in the chat.
Ciao.
Ciao.